Golden light, as if brushed across the valley by an artist's hand, bathed Eli Thompson's farm, promising a cheerful day in Harmony Valley. Apple boughs, laden with fruit, glistened with morning dew, hinting at the sweet harvest to come. A cool breeze carried the rich aroma of freshly tilled earth and ripening gourds. Eli, a man built like a gentle bear, his hands roughened from years of labor, surveyed his domain, a quiet contentment in his gaze. Lines etched by sun and wind fanned out from his eyes as he smiled, remembering his grandfather's words, "The soil is generous, Eli. Treat it well, and it will never fail you." That principle guided him, evident in his farm, a beacon of sustainable living and generosity. He'd been awake long before dawn, the rooster's call simply confirming his already active day. The farm's rhythm pulsed within him, a wordless melody he orchestrated effortlessly. Chickens had already been fed, their excited chatter a familiar welcome. The cows were milked, their breath clouding the chilly air. Now, as the sun climbed, it was time to gather the last of the summer squash. Eli moved with a practiced ease, carefully selecting the mature vegetables. He possessed an intimate knowledge of every plant, every square foot. His farm wasn't merely a livelihood, it was an extension of his being, a vital piece of his soul. A splash of scarlet interrupted his focus. Martha Gable, Harmony Valley's spirited heart, careened down his driveway in her vintage, cherry-painted pickup. The engine sputtered and groaned in protest, but Martha, undeterred, radiated fervent energy. "Eli, darling, you won't believe the morning I've had," she declared, bouncing out of the cab with a youthful exuberance that defied her 70-plus years. A riot of floral fabric formed her dress, playfully contrasting her practical orange boots, and strands of silver escaped her bun in playful disarray. A low chuckle rumbled from Eli. "Morning to you too, Martha. What set you off?" "That town council meeting, that's what," Martha exclaimed in exasperation. "They are contemplating a traffic light at the crossroads. Can you imagine? A stoplight. In Harmony Valley. It'll destroy the village's quaintness." Eli listened with patience as Martha launched into a passionate defense of the valley's unique charm and lamented the perils of modernization. He knew Martha's intentions were good, even when her methods leaned toward the dramatic. "I'm sure they'll consider the best interests of the community, Martha," he responded calmly, hoping to quell her agitation. "The community's best interests? Those city folk couldn't tell a weed from a wildflower." Martha scoffed, momentarily pausing to inhale deeply, then perking up. "Never mind, that isn't why I'm here. I need squash. My famous squash casserole is essential for the church social this weekend, and I'm running desperately short." Eli's face brightened. "You've come to the right place. I was just commencing the harvest. Take what you need." Martha's face split into a wide grin. "Oh, Eli, you're a true friend. Always so generous." She grabbed a basket from her truck and began gathering squash, her movements surprisingly spry. As they worked together, Martha regaled him with stories about the social, town gossip from the general store, and her cat Whisker's latest escapades. Eli offered quiet comments and gentle teasing, appreciating her lively company, a refreshing counterpoint to his own pensive nature. "You know, Eli," Martha remarked, pausing to wipe her forehead, "your grandfather would be so proud. You're keeping his legacy alive, nurturing this land with such devotion." The smile briefly faltered on Eli's face, a fleeting shadow crossing his features. He thought of his grandfather, a man of few words but profound insight. The elder Thompson had instilled in Eli a deep respect for the land, a commitment to community, and taught him everything about farming and life. "I just try to do what's right, Martha," he said softly. "This land has blessed my family for generations. It's my duty to care for it and share its abundance with those in need." He glanced at the rising sun, its warmth enveloping the valley. A sudden disquiet tugged at him, a premonition of change. He couldn't explain it, but he sensed a tremor in the earth, a subtle disruption of Harmony Valley's equilibrium. He dismissed it, attributing it to a fitful night and too much caffeine. Oblivious to his inner turmoil, Martha continued filling her basket with squash. The air vibrated with the drone of bees, the trill of crickets, and the soothing sounds of rural life. It was a picture of pastoral beauty, a testament to nature's resilience and the simple joys of a life intertwined with the land. Eli hoped, with a growing sense of apprehension, that this harmony could endure. The black car and bad news. The sun, usually Eli's cheerful reveille, felt like an interrogation lamp. He tossed and turned, Martha's frets compounding the disquiet that had burrowed into his marrow. He was nursing his coffee on the porch when a shadow detached itself from the morning haze, a black sedan, gleaming like obsidian against the dirt track. Not a work truck, nothing agrarian. Just black. Ominous. It purred to a stop by the barn, disgorging two figures. Samba suits swallowed them whole, despite the summer heat. Impassive faces, sunglasses mirroring the rising sun as cold, impenetrable discs. Their movement spoke of an authority alien to Harmony Valley. Eli placed his mug down, the ceramic clicking with startling clarity in the stillness. He advanced to meet them, his boots puffing small clouds of dust. "Morning," he greeted, his voice raspy. "Help you with something?" The taller one, his jaw a chiseled blade, produced a dark leather case, flicking it open to reveal a badge that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. "Mr. Eli Thompson?" he asked, his voice a monotone devoid of warmth. "That's me." The man produced a ream of documents, secured with a navy band. "We represent the Environmental Compliance Agency. We require a discussion regarding this property." He extended the sheaf toward Eli. Accepting the papers, Eli was surprised by their weight. "Environmental compliance. What's this about, exactly?" He began to leaf through them, the legal jargon forming a dense thicket before his eyes. Phrases like designated riparian zones, protected habitats, and infraction notices leaked out, painting a bewildering, unwelcome picture. "These documents detail findings from a recent survey of your land," the second agent, a woman with a severe crop and an equally stern mien, clarified. "Certain areas are now classified as ecologically sensitive. Your present farming methods contravene updated environmental standards." Eli stared at her, then back at the papers. A cold fist clenched in his gut. "But I don't understand. I've worked this soil my whole life. My granddad before me. We've always been mindful. Crop rotation, natural compost. We respect the land." He indicated the fields, rows of young corn swaying gently in the breeze. "Look at it. It's flourishing." "That may be so," the tall agent countered, his voice unyielding. "However, the assessment points to protected wetland zones impacted by your agricultural practices. Specifically, drainage patterns and runoff are affecting water quality and habitats of certain protected fauna." "Protected fauna?" Eli shook his head, bewildered. "What are you talking about? I haven't observed anything out of the ordinary." He pictured the occasional blue herons by the creek, the deer grazing near the woods. Had something shifted unnoticed? "The specifics are contained within the report," the woman stated, tapping a section of the document. "The crux, Mr. Thompson, is that you must cease all agricultural activities on the designated areas immediately. Furthermore, a remediation plan to restore the affected wetlands to their original state will be required." Eli's mind swam. Remediation. He scarcely grasped the term, let alone how to finance it. He raked a hand through thinning hair, his calloused fingers leaving streaks of dust. "But this is everything. This is how I provide, how I support the community. I can't simply cease." "We appreciate the difficulty," the tall agent conceded, his tone conveying no empathy. "However, these regulations exist to safeguard the environment. Non-compliance carries significant penalties, potentially leading to legal proceedings." Eli gazed out at his fields once more, at the familiar undulations of the land he knew intimately. He envisioned not only crops, but generations of Thompsons who had poured their energy into the soil. He pictured his grandfather teaching him about the weather, how to coax bounty from the earth. He saw his own future, the future he'd always envisioned, unfurling before him in those endless rows. And now, strangers in black suits and a black car were claiming it was all a violation. "Can I have someone examine this?" Eli asked, his voice barely audible. "Someone familiar with farming. Someone who will see I'm not harming the land, that I'm trying to do what's right." The agents exchanged a glance. The woman exhaled softly. "You are entitled to seek legal counsel, Mr. Thompson. The document details the appeals procedure. However, until further notice, these regulations remain in force." The tall agent began to retreat towards the car. We'll be in touch to arrange a follow-up inspection. He offered a clipped nod, then folded himself into the sedan. The woman followed, and the car whispered back down the lane, leaving Eli standing alone with the weighty documents in his grasp, the silence of the valley now pregnant with foreboding. Whispers of worry. The wind seemed to mock Eli's despair, rustling the leaves of his corn stalks like whispered accusations. He clutched the ECA notice, the sterile paper a stark contrast to the rich soil clinging to his calloused hands. He needed someone to talk to, someone who understood more than just yield numbers and bottom lines. He chose Jedediah. Jed was his closest neighbor, a taciturn man with a deep respect for the land, even if he did favor newer, more streamlined methods than Eli did. Jedediah was patching a hole in his chicken coop when Eli approached. The air hung thick with the scent of pine and manure. "Morning, Jed," Eli said, his voice raspy. Jedediah grunted a greeting, hammering a nail with practiced precision. "Something on your mind, Eli? You look like you've seen a ghost." Eli unfolded the notice, the crisp folds echoing in the quiet morning. "These folks from the ECA, they say I'm not farming right." Jedediah took the paper, his brow furrowing as he scanned the dense legal jargon. He spat a stream of tobacco juice into the dust. "Environmental compliance, never heard of setting foot round here before." He handed the notice back. "Says here you're polluting." "Polluting?" Eli's voice cracked. "I've spent my life nurturing this land. It's cleaner now than when my grandpappy had it." Jedediah rubbed his chin, his eyes narrowed in thought. "Well, you know how these government fellas are, always meddling." "Don't you worry, Eli. Probably just a misunderstanding." But the uncertainty in his voice was palpable. The news, like a stray seed carried on the wind, took root quickly in Harmony Valley. It sprouted first at Martha Gable's bakery, where the aroma of cinnamon rolls and freshly baked bread usually fostered a comforting atmosphere. Martha, a woman whose energy defied her 70 years, was kneading dough with vigorous enthusiasm when Elsie Mae came bustling in, her face flushed. "Martha, have you heard about Eli Thompson?" Martha paused, flour dusting her apron. "Eli? What's he gone and done?" "Finally bought himself a new tractor." Elsie Mae leaned conspiratorially over the counter. "Worse than that. They say the government's after him. Something about his farm polluting the water, they say." Martha snorted. "Eli Thompson polluting? That's like saying the sun's gone cold. He's the most careful farmer in the valley." But a seed of worry had been planted. She needed to get some squash from him soon, but couldn't help but wonder if things were okay. By noon, the bakery was buzzing with worried whispers. Customers exchanged glances, their conversations punctuated by concerned sighs. Even the sweetness of Martha's apple pie couldn't mask the sour taste of anxiety spreading through the community. The murmur reached the Harmony Valley General Store, a hub of local commerce and gossip. Old man Fitzwilliam, perched on his usual stool by the potbelly stove, listened intently as Sarah Miller recounted what she'd heard at the bakery. "And Elsie Mae said they are threatening to shut him down." Sarah exclaimed, her voice rising in indignation. "Can you imagine? Eli Thompson, shut down." Fitzwilliam stroked his beard, his eyes clouding with concern. "Eli's a good man. Always has been. Gives half his harvest away to folks who need it. This ain't right." A chorus of agreement rippled through the store. A young mother, cradling a baby, chimed in, "He gave us a whole bushel of tomatoes last year when my husband was out of work. We wouldn't have made it through the winter without him." The mood in the general store shifted. The usual banter and light-hearted teasing were replaced by a somber determination. This wasn't just about Eli Thompson, it was about their community, their values, and the very soul of Harmony Valley. "We gotta do something," Fitzwilliam declared, his voice firm. "We can't let them take Eli's farm. It's not just his livelihood, it's part of all of us." A town meeting at the schoolhouse. The aroma of yeast and wood smoke clung to Martha Gable as she marched through Harmony Valley. Her bread orders were backing up, but the thought of Eli losing his farm soured the taste of every sourdough she pulled from the oven. The disbelief that had initially gripped the town was morphing into a simmering anger. She stopped at the hardware store, the bell above the door jingling merrily as she entered. "Ezra. You seen the ECA notice?" she boomed, startling a customer browsing nails. Ezra, a wiry man with perpetually grease-stained hands, nodded grimly. Saw it. Hogwash, Martha, pure hogwash. That boy wouldn't hurt a fly, let alone the environment. Then are you coming to the meeting? Martha challenged, her voice leaving no room for refusal. Schoolhouse, tomorrow night, 7 sharp. We need to figure out how to help Eli. Ezra wiped his hands on his apron. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Martha. Count me in. The same scene played out across Harmony Valley that day. Martha, a whirlwind of determined energy, visited the general store, the post office, even Old Man Fitzwilliam's porch, her voice carrying on the wind. She wasn't a natural leader, her domain was the kitchen, not the podium. But seeing the quiet despair in Eli's eyes had lit a fire under her, a fierce protectiveness for the heart of their community. By 7 o'clock the next evening, the old schoolhouse buzzed with an energy it hadn't seen since the annual Christmas pageant. Every wooden chair was filled, and people spilled into the hallway, craning their necks to see. The air crackled with a mixture of worry and resolve. Lanterns cast a warm, flickering light, illuminating faces etched with concern. Martha stood at the front, nervously adjusting the microphone. She wasn't used to public speaking. She preferred the comforting rhythm of kneading dough to the spotlight. But she knew she had to do this. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice trembling slightly before gaining strength. We are here tonight because one of our own, Eli Thompson, is facing a terrible injustice. The ECA wants to take his land that's been in his family for generations. Land that he cherishes and cares for. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Eli isn't just a farmer, Martha continued, her voice ringing with conviction. He's a neighbor, a friend, a part of the very fabric of Harmony Valley. We can't stand by and let this happen. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. So, what are we going to do about it? A hand shot up. It was Jedediah, Eli's closest neighbor. We need to get a lawyer, he said, his voice rough with worry. Someone who knows how to fight these big corporations. That costs money, someone called out from the back. Money most of us don't have. We could take up a collection, suggested Sarah Miller, the school teacher. Everyone could contribute what they can. And what about publicity, asked young Thomas, the newspaper delivery boy. We need to let people know what's happening here. Get the word out beyond Harmony Valley. Ideas flew back and forth, a chaotic but passionate brainstorming session. Someone suggested writing letters to the ECA, pleading Eli's case. Another proposed organizing a protest, a show of solidarity to demonstrate the town's support. Old Man Fitzwilliam, his voice surprisingly strong, suggested researching the ECA, finding out who was behind the decision and what their motivations were. Martha scribbled furiously on a notepad, trying to keep track of the suggestions. The energy in the room was palpable, a collective will to fight for what was right. Doubt still lingered, a nagging awareness of the power they were up against, but they were overshadowed by a growing sense of hope. As the meeting drew to a close, Martha stood again, her voice hoarse but resolute. We have a lot of work to do, she said. But I know that if we work together, we can save Eli's farm. We can save the heart of Harmony Valley. She appointed committees to action the different ideas, giving everyone a purpose and a task. Outside, under the stardusted sky, neighbors lingered, discussing the plan. The fear hadn't vanished, but it was laced with a newfound determination. The fight for Eli Thompson, the quiet farmer who embodied the spirit of their community, had begun. And Harmony Valley, united by a common cause, was ready to stand its ground. Letters, protests, and hope. The sweetness of rising dough wrestled with the acrid bite of toner. Martha's Bakery, usually a sanctuary of sugary delights, had morphed into something akin to a Situation Room Harmony Valley style, of course. Every surface vanished beneath drifts of correspondence, stray pens, and the casualties of a hurried breakfast. Townsfolk, usually breezing through for a bear claw or a coffee cake, now sat in concentrated huddles, composing appeals. To the esteemed members of the Environmental Compliance Agency, Agnes Abernathy began, her voice a shaky tremolo. I've known Eli Thompson my whole life. He isn't despoiling the earth, he nurtures it. From her perch behind the counter, Martha offered a reassuring nod. Beautiful, Agnes. Speak your truth. The regular symphony of mixing bowls and oven timers gave way to the sporadic tap-tap-tap of keyboards and the crisp whisper of parchment. Even young Timmy Perkins, whose thumbs usually danced across video game controllers, meticulously cranked out copies of Martha's petition. His tongue peeked from the corner of his mouth as he coaxed each sheet through the printer, its aged mechanisms protesting with a mournful creak. The very air thrummed with a palpable anxiety, the collective heartbeat of a worried town. By noon, a veritable mountain of letters stood as a testament to their determination. Yet, Martha suspected that words alone might fall short. "We need to show them our numbers," she announced, brushing flour from her apron. "We need to show them how many of us believe in Eli." The seed of a protest had already been sown, surfacing in hushed conversations over coffee and furtive exchanges by the pickle barrels at the general store. Now, Martha brought it into the light. "A peaceful assembly," she clarified, addressing the room. "No raised voices, no aggression. Just a quiet, powerful display of solidarity." Plans materialized swiftly. Sarah Miller, the town's educator, pledged to craft signs. Despite his dwindling vigor, Old Man Fitzwilliam insisted on lending his harmonica to the cause, promising a repertoire of patriotic melodies. Even the usually reticent Pastor Johnson offered to lead a pre-protest prayer. The demonstration was set for the following Saturday on the steps of Harmony Valley Town Hall, the humble structure, yet the civic nucleus of their world. Meanwhile, Martha's Bakery was commandeered as an impromptu fundraising hub. A hefty glass jar, adorned with a crayon rendering of Eli's farm, sat conspicuously on the counter. "Legal battles are expensive," she explained to each patron. "We need to ensure Eli can fight with every tool at his disposal." Donations trickled in steadily. A clutch of crumpled bills from children, a scattering of coins from retirees, and the occasional significant contribution from those blessed with greater means. Each offering, regardless of its size, felt like a small victory hard won. Later, after the last straggler had departed and the bakery had fallen silent once more, Martha sat alone, totaling the day's collections. The sum was modest, but meaningful. Fatigue gnawed at her edges, but she fought it off. This was a long-haul effort, not a sprint to the finish. A soft rap at the back door broke the quiet. It was Eli, his face a landscape of worry lines. He stepped inside, his mud-caked boots leaving their imprint on the freshly mopped floor. "Martha, I hardly know how to thank you," he stammered, emotion thickening his voice. "All of this. For me." Martha left her stool to grasp his arm. "Eli, you'd extend the same grace to any of us." She squeezed his arm in reassurance. "This transcends your farm. It's about our town, our values. We won't let them strip that away." Eli met her gaze, his eyes brimming with gratitude. "I never sought any of this," he murmured. "Sometimes," Martha replied quietly, "life's greatest gifts arrive unbidden." She swept her hand toward the stacks of letters, the swelling donation jar, the hand-painted signs propped against the wall. "Behold, Eli. This is hope. This is Harmony Valley standing tall." A fragile smile softened Eli's features. For the first time since the ECA's arrival, a spark of defiance flickered in his eyes. He understood that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he also knew he wasn't navigating it alone. He had the unwavering support of his community, and that, he realized, was a treasure beyond measure. The eviction notice. The dust tasted like defeat. It coated Martha's tongue as she watched the black sedan crawl along the dirt road leading to Eli's farm. Two men, suits pressed and faces grim, sat inside. She recognized them. The agents from the Environmental Compliance Agency. A shiver ran through the crowd gathered at the edge of Eli's property. The energy, so vibrant just days before, felt thinner, stretched taut with apprehension. They'd maintained their vigil, a silent, watchful presence, but the agents hadn't been deterred. They'd been observing, calculating. She could feel it in her bones. The sedan stopped a respectable distance from the assembled townspeople. The agents didn't get out right away. They sat, like predators assessing their prey, the tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Jedediah, his face etched with worry, squeezed Martha's hand. Finally, the driver's side door opened. The taller of the two agents, a man with a severe haircut and eyes that seemed to absorb light, stepped out. He scanned the crowd, his gaze lingering on Martha for a moment before moving on. The other agent, shorter and rounder, emerged more reluctantly, clutching a thick manila envelope. They walked towards the barn, their steps measured and deliberate, ignoring the silent wall of people before them. No one moved to stop them, but the air crackled with unspoken defiance. Children clung to their parents, their wide eyes reflecting the gravity of the moment. Dogs, sensing the tension, whined softly. The taller agent stopped directly in front of the barn's weathered double doors. He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small, official-looking document. With a curt nod to his partner, he unfolded the paper and, with swift, decisive movements, affixed it to the barn door with industrial staples. The sound echoed across the yard, sharp, metallic, final. He stepped back, surveying his handiwork. The shorter agent, his face pale, seemed eager to leave. The crowd surged forward, drawn by a morbid curiosity. Martha pushed her way through, her heart pounding against her ribs. Printed in stark black letters on government-issued paper, the words leaked out at her, eviction notice. A collective gasp rose from the onlookers. Martha felt a wave of nausea wash over her. This was it. The unthinkable, made real. Eli hadn't been with the main group. He'd been tending to his cornfield, his back to the road, as if trying to ignore the encroaching doom. But the sound of the stapler, amplified by the stillness of the afternoon, had carried. He turned, slowly, his face etched with a weariness that aged him decades in an instant. He walked toward the barn, each step heavy, deliberate. He stopped a few feet from the notice, his gaze fixed on the official seal. His shoulders slumped. He didn't reach out to touch it, didn't say a word. He just stood there, a solitary figure against the backdrop of his beloved barn, the setting sun casting long, mournful shadows. Martha pushed through the last of the crowd and reached Eli's side. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in her throat. What comfort could she offer in the face of such blatant injustice? He finally looked up, his eyes meeting hers. They were filled not with anger, not with rage, but with a deep, profound sadness that cut Martha to the quick. They really mean to do it, don't they, Martha? His voice was barely a whisper, rough with emotion. She squeezed his arm, offering what little solace she could. We won't let them, Eli. We won't. But even as she said the words, a seed of doubt sprouted in her mind. The agents were gone, their sedan disappearing down the dirt road, leaving behind only the dust and the stark reality of the eviction notice. The fight was far from over. It had, in truth, only just begun. Lily's petition. The yellow school bus coughed to a stop, its brakes hissing like an angry serpent. Lily Chen practically leaped off, her backpack bouncing against her spine. The image of Eli standing in his field, shoulders slumped beneath the weight of the eviction notice, was seared into her mind. She couldn't shake the memory of his quiet dignity, the way he hadn't raised his voice or argued, just looked defeated. She walked through the double doors of Harmony Valley Elementary, the familiar scent of floor wax and crayons doing little to lift her spirits. Usually, she loved school, but today felt different. Today, injustice hung heavy in the air. During morning announcements, she fiddled with the hem of her plaid uniform skirt, her thoughts swirling. Mrs. Davison's voice droned on about the upcoming spelling bee, but Lily was miles away, back in Eli's sun-drenched fields. Eli had always been so kind, letting her and her friends pick strawberries in the summer, never charging them a dime. He'd even shown her how to coax a butterfly from its chrysalis, his weathered hands surprisingly gentle. Finally, it was time for recess. Lily found Maya and Ben huddled near the swings, their faces buried in a game of rock-paper-scissors. Guys, listen, Lily said, her voice urgent. Something really bad is happening to Mr. Thompson's farm. Maya looked up, her brow furrowed. What do you mean? Lily explained about the environmental regulations, the eviction notice, and the unfairness of it all. She told them about Eli's kindness, about the way he always helped everyone in town. Ben, usually the jokester, listened intently, his usual grin replaced by a serious frown. That's not right, he said, kicking at a loose pebble. Oh no. Lily exclaimed. We have to do something. Like what? Maya asked skeptically. Lily paused, her eyes scanning the playground. An idea sparked. We can start a petition. The others stared at her blankly. A petition? Ben repeated. What's that going to do? It's like a list of names, Lily explained, her enthusiasm bubbling over. We write down why we think it's wrong, and then everyone signs it to show they agree. Then we give it to someone important. Maya still looked unconvinced. Who would we give it to? I don't know yet, Lily admitted. But the important thing is to show everyone that we care, that we don't think it's fair. Ben's eyes lit up. I'm in. Mr. Thompson always gives the best pumpkins at Halloween. Maya, swayed by their enthusiasm, finally nodded. Okay, I'll help too. That afternoon, Lily worked tirelessly during art class, carefully printing "Save Thompson's Farm" at the top of a large sheet of paper. Beneath it, she wrote in her neatest handwriting, "Mr. Thompson is a good man and his farm helps our community. We don't want him to lose his home." The next morning, armed with her petition and a handful of borrowed pens, Lily stood near the entrance of the school, her heart pounding. She felt a surge of nervousness as students streamed past, their faces a blur of backpacks and hurried greetings. Taking a deep breath, she approached a group of older kids. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Would you like to sign my petition to save Mr. Thompson's farm?" The kids stopped, their expressions ranging from indifference to amusement. A tall boy with spiky hair raised an eyebrow. "What's it about?" Lily explained, her voice gaining confidence as she spoke. She told them about Eli, about the injustice of the situation, and about the importance of standing up for what's right. To her surprise, the boy listened. After she finished, he took the pen and signed his name with a flourish. His friends followed suit. Word spread quickly. Soon, a small crowd gathered around Lily, eager to add their names to the growing list. Some kids asked questions, others simply signed, their faces etched with concern. Even some of the teachers stopped by to offer their support. By the end of the day, Lily's hand ached from holding the pen, but her heart soared. The petition was overflowing with signatures, crammed onto every available space. She counted them carefully, over 200 names. 200 people who believed, like she did, that Eli deserved better. Clutching the petition tightly, Lily walked home, a spring in her step. She knew it was just a small gesture, a piece of paper filled with names. But it was a start. It was proof that even in a small town like Harmony Valley, even kids could make a difference. Eli's plea. The morning of the hearing broke with a sullen sky, mirroring the leaden weight in Eli's gut. Sleep had been a stranger, the eviction notice a brand on his mind. He moved through the farmhouse kitchen, Martha's robust coffee offering scant comfort. He hadn't polished any grand speech, he spoke the language of soil, not statutes. He knew harvests and hay bales, not legal jargon. His calloused thumb traced the familiar grain of the kitchen table, a gesture echoing his grandfather's, who dispensed wisdom with the same grounded assurance he sowed seeds. The land, the old man would say, whispers if you lend an ear. It'll tell you what it lacks. Eli had always listened. Martha entered, concern etched on her features, yet with a spark of resolve in her gaze. "Ready, Eli?" she asked, her tone unwavering. A slight shake of his head was his only answer. "Never really. But I got no choice." The town hall was teeming. Lily, spotting Eli and Martha, navigated the throng to reach them. "Mr. Thompson," she exclaimed, her voice alight with a nervous energy, "we are all behind you." She presented him with the petition, a weighty document bound with twine. "So many signatures, Mr. Thompson. All of Harmony Valley wants you to stay put." Eli's eyes moistened. He clasped Lily's hand, a gentle acknowledgement. "Thank you, Lily. Thank you, everyone." The hearing room felt cramped and airless, thick with a sense of foreboding. Perched behind an elevated bench sat a severe judge, his hairline receding, surveying the assembly. Lawyers in impeccable suits murmured amongst themselves. When his turn arrived, Eli walked to the stand with a measured gait. He rested his hands on the railing, his knuckles bone white. He scanned the room, recognizing not just faces, but neighbors, allies, the very essence of Harmony Valley's future. He began, his voice initially a rasp, gaining strength as he settled into his story. "My name is Eli Thompson," he declared, his gaze encompassing the room. "And this land, it's more than just acreage and crops to me. It's my kin. It's my heritage. It's Harmony Valley itself." He recounted tales of his grandfather, who tamed the fields with his own two hands, and his father, who had battled droughts and storms to preserve the farm. He spoke of the spring, its waters a source of life for his family and the entire community. He painted a picture of the joy of watching corn ripen under a summer blaze, the gratification of the harvest, the serene hush of winter when the earth rested. For generations, Eli continued, his voice resonant with feeling, we've coexisted with this land. We haven't exploited it. We've nurtured it. We've only taken what we needed and returned what we could. He described the vital role of his honeybees, how they enriched the fields and kept the ecosystem vibrant. He evoked the image of the ancient oak at the edge of his land, a silent guardian that had watched over Harmony Valley for centuries. They claim my farm violates regulations, Eli went on, his voice tinged with emotion. They allege I'm damaging the environment. But I ask you, observe. Observe this community. We've thrived here for generations, living from the land, honoring it. Does this resemble a place that's been wrecked? Does this seem like a community devoid of care? He paused, his eyes searching, meeting the gaze of those assembled. I'm no orator, he confessed. I'm ignorant of the ins and outs of legal speak. But I know this land. I know its spirit. And I know that taking it from me would be like tearing a chunk out of Harmony Valley's own heart. When Eli concluded, silence descended. Then, Lily moved forward. She approached the front, clutching the petition. Your Honor, she stated, her voice clear and composed, despite the tremor in her hands. We, the inhabitants of Harmony Valley, are here to demonstrate our support for Mr. Thompson. We believe his farm is indispensable to our community and that the environmental rules being wielded against him are unjust. She presented the petition. This document bears the signatures of hundreds who believe Mr. Thompson should be allowed to stay on his land. We implore you to consider our voices, heed our plea, and allow Mr. Thompson to continue his family's legacy in Harmony Valley. The judge accepted the petition, his face betraying nothing. He cast his gaze over the thick stack, then back at Eli, standing tall despite the shadow in his eyes. The destiny of Eli's farm, and perhaps Harmony Valley itself, teetered. A pie and a delay. The courtroom air hung thick with anticipation after Lily's presentation of the petition. Judge Thompson, no relation to Eli, as he'd been quick to point out, steepled his fingers, his gaze sweeping over the packed room. A low hum of nervous energy vibrated through the floor. It was Martha Gable who broke the tension. With a rustle of her floral dress and a determined glint in her eye, she stepped forward, carrying a large, foil-covered dish. Excuse me, Your Honor, she said, her voice clear and strong. I brought a pie. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. A pie. At a time like this. Even Eli looked at her with a mixture of confusion and concern. Martha placed the dish carefully on the table in front of the judge. It's blueberry, she announced. Made with berries from Eli's farm. He always lets me pick what I need, you know. Never charges a cent, says sharing the bounty is more important than lining his pockets. She paused, her gaze softening. It's a small thing, maybe, but it speaks to the kind of man he is. The bailiff looked like he might object, but Judge Thompson raised a hand. He studied the pie for a moment, then nodded slowly. Thank you, Mrs. Gable, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. That's very thoughtful. Martha beamed, then turned to the rest of the room. I made enough to share, she announced, pulling out a knife and beginning to slice generous portions. Come on, folks, help yourselves. It's best served with a little bit of hope. Soon, the courtroom was filled with the sweet aroma of warm blueberry pie. People lined up, accepting slices from Martha with grateful smiles. Even some of the government officials, looking slightly bewildered, succumbed to the temptation. Eli watched, touched, as a piece of his land, transformed into a symbol of community, was passed around. The judge took a tentative bite, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. He closed his eyes for a moment, seemingly savoring the flavor. This is excellent pie, Mrs. Gable, he said, finally opening his eyes. Thank you, Your Honor, Martha replied. Eli's blueberries are the best in the county. He takes such good care of them, just like he takes care of everything else on that farm. And everyone in this valley. The pie, it seemed, had worked its magic, diffusing the tension in the room and reminding everyone of the human element at stake. It was a momentary respite, a shared experience that transcended the legal proceedings. After everyone had a chance to taste the pie, Judge Thompson cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the now quiet room. "This has been a challenging case," he began, his gaze sweeping over the faces before him. "I've heard the arguments, seen the evidence, and tasted the pie." He paused, a faint smile playing on his lips. "And I've also witnessed the overwhelming support this community has for Mr. Thompson." He shuffled through the documents on his desk, his brow furrowed in thought. The environmental regulations in question are complex, and their application in this specific case requires further review. Given the circumstances and the demonstrable commitment of this community to Mr. Thompson and his farm. He paused again, building the suspense. Eli held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Lily squeezed his hand, her own trembling slightly. Martha stood beside them, her eyes fixed on the judge, a silent plea etched on her face. "I am ordering a delay in the eviction," Judge Thompson announced, his voice ringing with authority. "The court will conduct a thorough review of the environmental impact assessment and consider the community's concerns before making a final decision. Mr. Thompson will be allowed to continue farming his land until further notice." A collective gasp of relief swept through the courtroom, followed by a wave of cheers and applause. Eli felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of gratitude, hope, and disbelief. He turned to Martha, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Martha." Martha squeezed his hand, her own eyes brimming with tears. "We are not done yet, Eli," she said, her voice firm. "This is just the beginning. But it's a start. And we'll keep fighting for you, for all of us." The judge banged his gavel, calling the room back to order. "This case is adjourned," he announced. "Pending further review." As the crowd began to disperse, buzzing with excitement and renewed hope, Eli felt a sense of cautious optimism. The battle wasn't won, but they had bought themselves some time. Time to prepare, time to fight, and time to prove that Harmony Valley was worth saving. Harmony Valley's harvest celebration. The air hummed with the promise of autumn as Harmony Valley prepared for its harvest celebration. Not just any harvest, but a celebration of resilience, of community, of a future they'd fought to secure. Eli's farm, usually a place of quiet labor, buzzed with an almost frenetic energy. Children chased chickens, their laughter echoing through the rows of corn stalks, now stripped bare but standing tall like silent sentinels. Martha Gable, her sleeves rolled up, directed a team of volunteers setting up long wooden tables laden with checkered cloths. The aroma of apple cider donuts mingled with the smoky scent of grilling sausages, creating an irresistible invitation. Lily Chen, her cheeks flushed with exertion, hammered in the final stake for a banner that read, "Harmony Valley, rooted in tradition, growing in strength." Eli, usually reserved, moved through the crowd with a tentative smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he acknowledged the well-wishers. He still felt a tremor of disbelief, a lingering fear that the victory in court was too fragile to truly celebrate. But the sheer, palpable joy radiating from his neighbors chipped away at his apprehension. "Eli, you look like you've seen a ghost." Martha chuckled, grabbing his arm. "Lighten up. This is your day, our day. We did it." He managed a genuine smile. "It's just hard to believe. All this for me." "Not just for you, Eli," Lily interjected, wiping sweat from her brow. "For all of us. You showed us what it means to stand up for what we believe in." The celebration began in earnest. A local bluegrass band, the Harmony Hillbillies, struck up a lively tune and couples swayed on the makeshift dance floor. Children bobbed for apples in oversized tubs, their faces dripping with water and laughter. Eli found himself swept into the festivities, pulled onto the dance floor by Martha, his initial awkwardness melting away in the warmth of the community. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a hush fell over the crowd. A black sedan pulled up to the edge of the field, and a woman in a crisp business suit emerged, accompanied by two uniformed officers. A collective groan rippled through the crowd. Had the reprieve been temporary? Was this the end of their celebration? The woman raised her hand, silencing the murmurs. "Good evening, Harmony Valley. I am Agent Davies, representing the Environmental Protection Agency." Eli felt his stomach clench. This was it. Agent Davies cleared her throat. Following the court's review and the compelling evidence presented by this community, we have reconsidered the environmental impact assessment for this region. A gasp went through the crowd. Eli's heart hammered against his ribs. Our initial findings were based on incomplete data and a lack of understanding of the unique ecosystem of Harmony Valley. We recognize the importance of sustainable farming practices and the valuable contributions of farmers like Mr. Thompson to preserving the natural landscape. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the faces in the crowd. Therefore, we are pleased to announce that the regulations affecting Mr. Thompson's farm and other agricultural lands in Harmony Valley will be revised to reflect a more balanced approach. We are committed to working with the community to ensure a sustainable future for all. A roar erupted from the crowd, a wave of relief and elation washing over Eli. He felt tears welling up in his eyes, tears of gratitude, of hope, of sheer, unadulterated joy. Martha squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. Lily threw her arms around him, her voice choked with emotion. The hillbillies launched into a rousing rendition of "This Land Is Your Land," and the crowd sang along, their voices blending in a powerful chorus of unity. Eli looked around at the faces of his neighbors, his friends, his family. He saw the resilience in their eyes, the determination that had fueled their fight. He knew that Harmony Valley was more than just a place on a map, it was a spirit, a community bound together by shared values and a commitment to preserving their way of life. As fireworks exploded in the night sky, illuminating the faces below, Eli raised his glass in a toast. To Harmony Valley, he said, his voice thick with emotion. To community. To hope. And to the future we've built together. The crowd cheered, their voices echoing through the valley, a testament to the power of unity and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The harvest celebration had become more than just a festival, it was a symbol of their victory, a promise of a brighter future, and a celebration of the enduring spirit of Harmony Valley. Eli knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his soul, that they had won.